So these are the applications for multiplying and dividing fractions. What you're going to do is, again, when we read the word problem, look for clue words. We know we're talking about multiplication and division, so we have to just pick out which clue words are going to be in here. So it says you bought fabric to make a Snuggie for your dog. You have 13 3/4 yards of material, and you need to cut it into 2.5 yard lengths. If you're cutting it, kind of think about that. Here's your piece of material. So essentially you're dividing here. How many of these can you cut from the material? So we have the fabric, which is 13 3/4 yards, and we're cutting it into 2.5 yard lengths. So we're actually dividing and that's going to give us an answer of 5.5. However, for us to say we can make 5.5 Snuggies doesn't actually help us. So we can cut 5 whole lengths from the fabric then. The second one, Joe purchased rope to make a rope ladder on his jungle gym. He bought 20 yards of rope and used 48 feet to make the sides of the rope ladder. He wants to make 6 pieces of rope for the steps of the ladder. How long in feet must he cut each piece for the steps? We have an issue here because notice in bold there's yards and then there's feet. So since we want our final answer to be in feet, let's go ahead and change this over. So if I have 20 yards, you need to know how many feet is that. Every yard is 3 feet, so 20 yards is going to be 20 times 3, or 60 feet. So the first thing he did was take the 60 feet of rope he used, which tells me I'm subtracting the 48 feet to make the sides. If I do that, I'm going to be left with 12 feet. He needs to make 6 pieces to go for the steps of the ladder, so we need to make 12 and divide it by 6, which we can just do. That's 2 feet for each step. Next one, Mitch is cutting wood to make a garden marker. Each garden marker changes the length of the piece of wood by negative 0.8 foot. The length of wood changes by a total of negative 4 4/5 feet after Mitch cuts all the pieces. How many pieces did he cut? So this is how much was taken off, and this is how much each individual one is. So we actually need to divide how much was taken off by the negative 0.8. This is a fraction, this is a decimal. This is 8/10, so we could say negative 8/10 here. And we can go ahead and divide. We're going to end up with 6 markers cut when we divide. Last example here for you, the amount of shore, the sandy area at a local beach, changes an average of negative 3/4 foot each year. What is the change in the amount of shore after 7 years? So this happens 7 times. So negative 3/4 times 7. That's going to give us negative 5 1/4 feet over 7 years.